On a quiet night, Lieutenant Brad Thompson was patrolling a deserted road in his squad car. His mind was filled with distorted ideas of society, formed by years of prejudice and misinformation. As he was driving, he saw a black sedan parked on the side of the road. Without hesitation, he decided to approach the vehicle, not knowing that its passenger was an undercover FBI agent. Brad got behind the sedan and flashed his patrol car's headlights. He went out, hand for the box, a habit born of long years of doubt. As he approached the driver's window, he saw a man sitting quietly in the driver's seat. Marcus Johnson, the FBI agent, was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. He took a deep breath, preparing for the interaction. He knew from experience that these encounters could be unpredictable, especially given the color of his skin. Brad came to the window, his position rigid and commanding. He taped the window with his flashlight, motioning for Marcus to shut up. As the window rolled down, Brad's demeanor changed subtly, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of Marcus. "License and registration?" Brad asked, his tone harsh and hostile. Marcus obeyed, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. He handed her his papers, keeping a calm expression despite the rising tension. Brad examined the documents carefully, his doubt showing on his frown. "Where are you going tonight?" he asked, his voice filled with implicit accusation. "Coming off work, officer," Marcus replied matter-of-factly. Brad's next question clearly revealed his bias. "And where exactly are you from?" "It doesn't look like you're from here." The atmosphere became more tense as Marcus recognized the implication behind Brad's words. He took a moment to compose himself before answering firmly. "I was born and raised in this country, officer." "Is there a problem with my letters?" Brad's jaw clenched at Marcus' answer. The conversation broke down quickly. Brad's prejudice met with resistance worthy of Marcus. The stage has been set for a showdown that exposes deep-seated problems in the police force and challenges the views of both men. Brad's irritation grows noticeably as Marcus holds the ground. Trying to reassert his authority, Brad moved closer to the car window, his voice low and menacing. "Look, I don't like your attitude. Why don't you get out of the vehicle?" Marcus, recognizing the potential danger of the situation, decided to change tactics. He took a deep breath and spoke calmly. "Officer, before you climb out the situation, I want to share something with you." Brad paused, surprised by the sudden response. Marcus continues in his strong but emotional voice. "When I was 10 years old, my father was stopped by a police officer for a broken tail light. What should have been a routine search ended up with my father in handcuffs, face down on the floor, all because the officer assumed he was looking for a gun when all he was looking for was his gun." The personal history seemed to rub through Brad's tough exterior. His posture relaxed slightly, but confusion and defensiveness still clouded his features. As Marcus spoke, memories flooded Brad's mind of his childhood home, where racial slurs were common. "And, please, and, thank you." He remembered his father, a respected man in his small town, who taught him that some people were inherently dangerous and untrustworthy. These flashbacks clashed with Marcus' words, creating a cognitive dissonance that Brad struggled to reconcile. He finds himself torn between his deep convictions and the humanity of the man in front of him. Marcus, sensing a change in Brad's attitude, continued, "Officer, I became an FBI agent to change the system from the inside. Every day I work to protect all citizens, regardless of race. But encounters like this remind me of how far we still have to go." Brad's eyes widened at the mention of the FBI. He sat down, suddenly unsure of his place in the conversation. "The FBI? Do you expect me to believe you?" "That's the truth," Marcus replied calmly. "And it is also true that the responsibility of the police is to protect and serve all members of the community, not just a few." The conversation had turned into a fierce debate about the prejudices and the responsibility of the police, Brad found himself on the defensive, his old beliefs challenged by Marcus' words and his own conflicting emotions. As the tension grew, Brad felt the pressure of Marcus' truths weighing on him. He struggled to keep his composure, caught between training, education, and the undeniable reality before him. As Brad and Marcus continued their tense meeting on the deserted road, Sarah Thompson sat anxiously at home. The clock on the wall indicated that Brad was very late getting home from work. The restless man covered his face as he walked across the living room, phone clutched in his hand. Sarah called Brad's number for the third time that evening. Once again, the message went straight to voicemail. His anxiety was intensifying. It wasn't like Brad was going out of touch for that long, especially on a night shift. Unable to shake her worry, Sarah decided to act. He opened his contact list and landed on a name he hadn't used in months, David Shunn, a lawyer friend with connections in the law enforcement community. Her thumb hovered over the message icon for a moment before she began to type. David, I'm worried about Brad. He's late for his shift, and he's not answering his phone. I hate to ask, but do you know someone who can check if everything is okay? Waiting for an answer, Sarah's mind went to the latest changes in Brad, his growing nervousness, the inappropriate comments that made her feel uncomfortable, the growing distance between them. She knew Brad's job was stressful, but lately it seemed to be changing in ways that scared her.
David's answer came quickly. I'll make some phone calls. Any idea where he might be patrolling tonight? Sarah answered with what little information she had, then added, David, I'm scared. Brad has been different lately. The things he says about minorities affect our family. I don't know what to do. David, sensing the gravity of the situation, replied, Sarah, I think you know someone who could help. His name is Marcus Johnson, an FBI agent. It is working to improve police-community relations. Let me contact him. Unknown to Sarah, David immediately contacted Marcus, alerting him to the potentially volatile situation involving Brad. He told him of Sarah's concerns about Brad's recent behavior and the possibility that he was in a delicate situation. As Sarah anxiously awaited the news, she couldn't help but wonder if tonight could be a turning point for her family and for Brad's career. She hoped that whatever happened out there on this dark road would lead to positive change rather than tragedy. While Marcus was unmoved by Brad's request, his phone vibrated in his pocket. Discreetly checking the message, he recognizes the name of another FBI agent. The message was short but urgent, attention. Thompson may be connected to the corruption case. Your coverage could be compromised. Marcus' heart rate increased. The stake had suddenly become much higher. He realized that this seemingly routine traffic stop could be connected to the larger network of police corruption he had been investigating. Keep calm, Marcus decided to change tactics. He looked Brad straight in the eye and asked, Officer Thompson, do you have any children? Brad, caught off guard by this personal question, hesitated before answering sternly, Yes, son. What do you care? Marcus continued, his voice quiet but confident, which world do you want for him? For a moment, the face of his son is judged returned to him, with the hopes and dreams he had for the future of the child. But he quickly recovered, remembering the expectations of his fellow officers and the image he had cultivated during his years on the force. Don't bring my family into this, Brad yelled, hand instinctively reaching for his holster. Marcus noticed the movement and tensed, aware that the situation could escalate quickly. He had to find a way to get closer to Brad, to get him to see past his deep-rooted prejudices. I wasn't trying to threaten you, Officer Thompson, Marcus said carefully. I'm asking you to think about the future. What example are we setting for the next generation? Brad's inner conflict was evident on his face. A part of him wanted to listen, to think about Marcus' words, but years of conditioning and peer pressure prevented him from doing so. He was torn between his duty as he had always understood it and the uncomfortable truths Marcus was forcing him to face. As the tension between them grew, the two men realized that this encounter was much more than a simple traffic stop. It had become a microcosm of the larger social problems that plagued law enforcement and race relations in America. The conflict was intensifying and no one knew how it would end. Marcus, sensing that the situation would change, decided to take a risk. He looked Brad straight in the eyes and spoke in a low, serious voice. "Officer Thompson, what I'm about to tell you puts your life in danger. I'm an FBI agent investigating a corruption ring in your police department." Brad's eyes widened in disbelief. "Do you expect me to believe you? Where's your badge?" "It's in my glove compartment. I'm secretive, so I can't tell you right now. But I can give you names: Detective Ramirez, Sergeant Collins, Officer Martinez. Does it mean anything to you?" Brad's mind raced as he recognized the names. He knew these officers well, he also respected them. Could they really be involved in something so bad? Doubt entered his thoughts, but he was also aware of the dangers of trusting Marcus without evidence. "How do I know you didn't set me up?" Brad asked, reaching for the gun. "Think about it, Thompson," Marcus replied urgently. "Why put myself in this situation if I'm not going to tell the truth? You are in the middle of something much bigger than you think. And now you have a choice: you can be part of the solution or become another victim of this system." Brad's mind was troubled. She was caught between her training, her instincts, and the unsettling possibility that Marcus was telling the truth. The weight of the decision weighed heavily on him. He felt cold sweat forming on his forehead as he considered his options. Marcus, seeing the struggle in Brad's eyes, knew that time was up. He had to push Brad to the limit to make him see the reality of the situation. "Thompson, if you arrest me tonight, you will be helping the same people who are destroying your department from within. Is this really what you want?" Brad's hand curled next to his holster as he looked Marcus in the eye. He saw no fear, only determination and a glimmer of something he did not expect: hope. The conflict came to a head when Brad finally made his decision. Instead, he removed his hand from his holster and stepped back, his mind reeling from the implications of what he had just done. "Get out of here," Brad muttered, his voice strained. "Before I change my mind."
Marcus didn't need to be told twice. He started his car, giving Brad one last look of understanding and gratitude before heading off into the night. As the headlights of Marcus' car flashed into the darkness, Brad stood alone on the deserted road, dealing with the monumental decision he had just made. He had crossed a line that would forever change the course of his life. But for the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he had taken a step towards the right of history. The voice of Officer Ramirez, one of the names Marcus had mentioned earlier, made Brad spin, and he remembered the times when Ramirez had acted suspiciously, the times when evidence had mysteriously disappeared from the premises closed after Ramirez gained access. Towards her, Marcus, tense and ready for any eventuality, meets Brad's gaze, silently urging him to make the right choice. Brad gets confused for a moment, caught between two worlds. On the one hand, the familiar company of his companions, and on the other, the disturbing truth that Marcus presented and the hope for a better future for his son. As Ramirez and his partner approached, Brad realized he only had seconds to decide. His choice in that moment defines not only the rest of the night, but the rest of his life. The danger was no longer just physical, it was moral, a threat to his identity as a policeman and a man. Taking a deep breath, Brad turned to his approaching colleagues, his mind set. When the officers Ramirez and his partner closed, Brad made his choice. In one swift movement, he placed himself between Marcus and the approaching officers, his hand raised in a gesture of caution. "Wait, Ramirez!" Brad called, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. "I've got the situation under control." Ramirez paused, a look of doubt crossing his face. "Just a routine stop, no need for rescue." Marcus remained silent, aware that the slightest mistake could destroy this fragile moment. "We got a call about a suspicious vehicle in the area." "That wouldn't be it, would it?" Brad's thoughts raced. He knew there had been no such call. It was a fabrication, perhaps an excuse to interfere with the Marcus inquiry. At that moment, all the little inconsistencies he had ignored over the years crystallized into a reprehensible picture of corruption. "No," Brad said firmly, surprising himself with his determination. "This is not the vehicle you are looking for. Actually, I think you should probably go back to the police station. I have some paperwork to fill out regarding the irregularities I noticed recently." The atmosphere changed significantly. Ramirez's hand reached for the gun. "What kind of irregularity are we talking about?" Brad stood up, fully committed to his decision. "The kind of thing that could interest the FBI, Ramirez. The kind of thing that could take out half the department if found out." The tension was palpable as Ramirez and Jenkins exchanged glances. For a moment, it looked as if the situation would turn violent. But then, surprisingly, Ramirez retires. "Okay, Thompson, do what you want. But remember, we're all family here. You wouldn't want to do anything to put yourself in danger, would you?" The threat in Ramirez's words was clear, but Brad didn't back down. He watched as the two agents got back into their car and drove off, leaving him alone with Marcus again. As the taillights disappeared into the distance, Brad turned to Marcus, his face a mixture of determination and fear. "I hope you're right," he said, "because I think I've just started a war." After Brad's decision, he and Marcus quickly realized that they had to act quickly. They knew that Ramirez and Jenkins would soon betray their corrupt colleagues, putting both men in immediate danger. "We have to move," Marcus said urgently. "My car is equipped with surveillance equipment. We can use it to get to a safe house." Brad nodded as his police training took over despite the surreal situation. "And my wife, Sarah? She may also be in danger." "I'll contact my team," Marcus replied. "They'll make sure she's safe." As he left the scene, Brad's cell phone buzzing non-stop with messages from his colleagues. He ignored them, focused on the road ahead of them and the great task before them. They arrived at a nondescript apartment on the outskirts of the city. They found Sarah waiting, worried on her face. She rushed to hug Brad, relief and fear mixed in her eyes. "I'm so glad you're okay," he whispered. "When David told me what had happened, I was scared." Brad hugged her tightly, realizing the reality of his decision. "I'm sorry, Sarah, for everything. But we will run this." Marcus gently interrupted the moment. "We don't have much time. We need to gather all the evidence we have and prepare to present it to the FBI." The next few hours were very busy. Brad shared everything he knew about the corrupt activity in his department, while Marcus corroborated the information with his own findings. Sarah was invaluable, her keen eye for detail helping to link seemingly unrelated incidents into a cohesive narrative of corruption. By dawn, they finally had a complete file ready to present to the FBI. But as they prepared to leave, the sound of screeching tires outside shattered the morning calm. "They found us," Marcus said, peering through the blinds. Outside, several police cars had surrounded the building, with officers Ramirez and Jenkins leading a group of armed men toward the entrance. Brad, Marcus, and Sarah exchanged glances, each understanding the gravity of the moment. They had the evidence to expose the corruption, but first they had to survive this final showdown. As the sound of heavy steps echoed in the stairs, they prepared for the fight of their lives. The day of the evidence arrived. The tension was palpable. Brad, Marcus, and Sarah stood outside FBI headquarters, fully aware of the risks they were taking. As they approached the entrance, a group of corrupt officers, led by Ramirez and Jenkins, intercepted them. "Think about what you're doing, Thompson," growled Ramirez, his hand near his gun. "You still have time to come back. Act as if nothing happened." Brad stood up, his determination strengthened by the presence of Sarah at his side. "It's over, Ramirez. We will do it." Just when the situation seemed to escalate, Sarah stepped forward with her calm but determined voice. "Before anyone does something stupid, you should know that I recorded everything." He took his phone and played a video that captured not only the confrontation of the night of the traffic, but also the compromising conversations between the corrupt officials. Ramirez's face fell as he realized the extent of the evidence against them. Seizing the moment of confusion, Marcus gestured to a team of FBI agents waiting nearby. They rushed forward, assuring them officers Carapace avant quils puissance combat tray. At FBI headquarters, Brad took a deep breath before presenting the evidence. Their testimony, combined with Marcus's investigation and Sarah's recordings, painted a grim picture of systemic corruption in the police force. As he spoke, Brad felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He was no longer just a cog in a corrupt machine, but an agent of change, working to restore the integrity of the institution he had defended in the past. The presentation ended with a shocking revelation. The corruption extended far beyond the local police department, including some high-ranking city government officials. After that, Brad had to deal with the consequences and redemption. He received praise for his courage to speak out against corruption, but also accepted a suspension for his past acts and prejudices. He is committed to retraining and community engagement, determined to become the kind of officer he should have been from the start. Marcus, known for his tenacity and skill, received a promotion at the FBI. He continued to work to improve police-community relations, using the case as a powerful example of the need for continued vigilance and reform. Sarah, proud of her husband's transformation, became an advocate for police reform, working with community organizations to bridge the gap between law enforcement and marginalized communities. When they left the FBI building that day, Brad, Sarah, and Marcus knew that their actions would cause changes that would affect the entire criminal justice system. It was only the beginning of a long journey towards true justice and equality, but they were up for the challenge.